we still have some people trickling in, but we should probably go ahead and get started. My name is Jennifer Remenchik, and I am a member of the exhibitions team here at Brand and creator and moderator of Art Talks at Brand, an initiative in which contemporary artists from the Glendale and greater Los Angeles area are invited to discuss their work and the issues that inform it, followed by a discussion with myself and a public Q&A. This program is free and open to the public. I would like to take a moment to thank the Brand Associates for their generous support of this program. Carrie Cook was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and she currently lives and works in Los Angeles, California. Through a rigorous process of mining her archive, Cook's practice explores the psychological territory of memory, ecstasy, and grief. Circling poetic everyday moments into a mystical narrative, the works create a symbolic visual language. The work seeks to reassess the tradition of surrealism and employ the symbolism of ancient art history and Eastern and Western religious traditions, resulting in large-scale works on canvas as well as intimate icon-like paintings on panel. Cook's work has been exhibited at Best Western in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Goldfinch Gallery in Chicago, Baik Gallery in Seoul, CFHILL, Night Gallery, Make Room, Tyler Parks Presents in Los Angeles, Below Grand in New York, the Lawndale Art Center in Houston, and the Blaffer Museum of Art in Houston, and featured in publications such as Bat City Review, Art Maze Magazine, and Contemporary Art Review Los Angeles. So please join me in welcoming Carrie Cook. Hi.
Thank you. Ooh, thank you for coming. Oh. I wanted to start with this picture, especially kind of in the wake of the week's events. I felt like thinking and then putting together these slides, like thinking through, it's kind of been nice to put together these slides in the wake of this week's events and think about like what a gift it is to be an artist, because it keeps you close to, what I was thinking about is that like being an artist keeps you close to failure and keeps you close to spirituality and like our need for that connection with like something beyond us. And my practice has always led me to that, and that's like why I've kept going back to art, is because I've tried many other like ways to get to spirituality and ways to get to health or help. And I feel like art is the thing that like does it the best. And this photo is from a like kind of like play ritual that I did in 2015 at a beach in Galveston. So that's my intro. I'm going to show a ton of pictures of both works that are mine and also some paintings that I just really love. So this is a Robert Gober painting. It's a part of this series of paintings that he did in the like 1982 to 84, where he repainted this one painting continuously. Like every day he would go to the studio and wipe off the painting from the day before and like remake it. And there's several images from that collection of slides that I feel like are really, really profound little paintings, including this one. And I also was thinking about like how much through the course of my work I've been thinking about like this idea of descent, like going down into the underworld or like into the inner like sanctuary or something. This is another one of the Robert Gober paintings. This is a painting I made as a child of driving at night. And this is also a drawing I made as a child, thinking about both night and day and love, which are themes that I'm still thinking about. And this is also a drawing from that time of a lightning storm. This is a James Turrell piece. It's one of his installations in Houston that one of these sky spaces in Houston, and I've thought a lot about and used collage in my work, and I wanted to include this picture because my experiences in these Turrell spaces, I felt like really were part of how collage came into how collage like entered into my painting practice even more, if that makes sense. So this is a collage from grad school. And in this point in my work, I was painting really like making collages really quickly, and then painting them like really directly and thinking kind of about sculpture. So I was like kind of trying to replicate these, and then I'll go back to that. Here's another one, and then making it sort of more sculpturally, but basing on these like loose collages, and was kind of thinking about abstract painting. Up here is a image from the Cy Twombly gallery at the Mill in Houston. And I spent a lot of time at that space when I was in Houston, and especially in this room. This was like the pond room, which I'm still really obsessed with, this little suite of paintings. Especially because they're like looking down at a body of water, but then he's like flipped it up and put them on the wall. And so that was very informative to me, that the opportunity to be in this space like very frequently in Houston. And I was also interested in how Twombly was like painting the natural world like really representationally in one way, but really abstractly also, in these ones particularly. So I was trying to find my own way of doing that too, and did a bunch of paintings of the moon. And then again, like this painting, I was kind of like thinking about the natural world, but also thinking about abstract painting. And then this is a picture from my thesis show in Houston. And this is more examples of kind of thinking about sculpture and thinking about abstract painting, and also thinking about collage. And then, yeah, these works are kind of collaging materials into the paintings. By this point, I was like wanting my work to also start to address my autobiography more too. And so I was starting to try to figure out, either through titles or through embedding photographs like under the paint, but starting to like pull things more that were more like referencing my own personal experience. And then this was part of the installation as well, and this is like an enlarged photograph of my dad and my dog at the beach, and then it's like looking out onto the installation from downstairs. And this is the same beach that was in the first photo that I showed, the like night photo. This is a Marnie Weber installation that was on view at MoCA when I moved to LA in 2013. I put it here as like a kind of vibe shift, because moving to LA felt like a really big, it wasn't something that I super planned. It happened really fast, and I had never been to Los Angeles before moving here. Had expected to stay in Texas, and got here and was really excited about the artists I started to meet and the art that I could see, and I had an idea of what I knew about, artists from LA, but had a lot to learn, or was excited to just be here, and loved this installation. This is a Dorothy Ionet piece. She had some work on view early in my LA days too, and I was moving here. I kind of like went through a personal my personal life changed, went through a really big breakup. I didn't have a studio for a while, and I sort of just devoted myself to reimagining, like rethinking a lot of my ideas about art, thinking about my own emotional relationship to art, and to art that I really loved, what I actually liked, not just what I thought was smart. And I really felt like LA had something to say about that, like especially I encountered a lot of women artists that I didn't know about before, and just felt a lot more free to actually like ask myself what I cared about as an artist. Started doing these watercolor drawings and like incorporating a lot of text, writing, copying things from my journal, being like very middle school girl, kind of about my practice, printing. Yeah, I didn't have a studio for a while, and I was working full time. So, and had gone from making these like giant sculptural paintings that required a wood shop and like a big studio that I had in Houston and I didn't have here. But there was something I think really good for my soul to kind of lose all of that and like get back to just a more accessible way of making art and connecting with myself as an artist. It's more writing, recording my dreams, copying quotes, just wanted to sort of like let anything be allowed. These are both copies of Fra Angelico paintings, or like loose copies of Fra Angelico paintings. So I was looking at other historical works of art and thinking just trying to rethink what I wanted to do as an artist. This is one of the Fra Angelico paintings that I was looking at and ended up making several like versions of this painting of myself several versions of this painting myself. Here's one. Started thinking a lot more about color too, in a new way, through watercolor. This is a drawing of a dream. This was, more dream stuff. I also, in that time, printed a lot of my photos from the past several years, and I put them into this big book. And when I was collaging earlier, like the collage stuff that I was making earlier, didn't necessarily come from my own photography, but I started to think more about the way I was collecting images myself and printing those and using them more exclusively in my collage practice, so that the collage works were all now coming from photos I had taken, whereas before they were kind of from anything. These are some collage works from that time period. These are also documentation from that ritual that I mentioned that I did in Houston. And I was living in LA at this point, but went back to Houston to go to this beach and kind of address this site. Again, it was kind of like a play, like a made-up play ritual, but I don't know what else to say about it besides that. Here's another collage. One. This is a picture of me in 2017, like sitting on a dance floor. I used it in several collages and as a reference for some paintings, but I wanted to put it here because it to me also felt like this moment of like, it's like, just sort of a reminder of like going low or like going down, like staying connected to the earth, and ways that art like gets you through that. This is my nephew and a collage that he made. And I think I ripped this idea off and later started making collage works that were like this. So this is another of the Robert Gober paintings that were part of that, like his slides. This is a Philip Guston painting. It's like looking into his own brain. So around this is like in 2016, 2015 painting, I started making oil paintings again out of my garage in Highland Park. Still didn't have like a super proper studio, but started to make small oil paintings again in there. This is a small oil painting from that time, and these are both also referencing Fra Angelico paintings. They're pretty close copies. I don't think I put the Angelico painting in there, but this is a small oil painting, like 9 by 12. And then these are some more medium-sized oil paintings from that same like garage studio. Still like thinking a lot about abstract painting at that time. Mm-hmm. And then this is a little bit of a fast forward. I had more space and started to have more time to work on painting, like oil painting again, and started to paint more explicitly from my own photos, looking at photography, and thinking about more narrative. And like, I think having gone through these years, I felt like I want everything to be allowed in the paintings that I want to make. And when I was younger, I felt like narrative and figuration were like, should not be allowed for me, but I wanted to let like anything back in. This is a show I did in 2020 at Tyler Park. And this group of paintings were all sort of my first round of like oil painting at a little bit bigger scale, and just thinking still about collage, especially in terms of how I was making compositions, but being a bit more like thinking about narrative and symbolism and my own life also. Detail. This is a small painting panel. There's like a frog thread, that symbol that kind of comes through. Maybe we'll answer some, I don't know. This is steaks on a plate. So I was interested in painting food, or got into being interested in painting food and thinking about what food represents, and also food as a way to get to color. I was interested in like the like skin color and blood color of like tomato sauce, and but more generally thinking about food as a the history of still life painting and all the like thinking about all of that symbolism, and also my own just like ideas about pleasure and about nourishment and self-fulfillment kind of, and ways to give myself that, and food being sort of a like a way to talk about that or think about that. This is a Laura Owens painting, Kiss painting. And this is a painting of like a scene from Romeo and Juliet, the Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio one. This is a super tiny painting. This is a really much bigger one. This is the installation view of that painting. These two I was thinking kind of as a diptych at that time. This is another version of the like Romeo and Juliet kind of kiss scene, like kissing in water. And I've kept thinking about the idea of sort of being like half under, half above the water, half under it. And I think that's part of what like has brought me back to that scene in that movie, as being like half above, half below. This is a oil painting of there's like a smaller watercolor of this painting earlier that I showed you, of a dream that I had about being at this blue table. And that was sort of, in the dream, it was sort of like you were underwater too. So part of this. Another painting of that dream. And then still like thinking about the table as like a surface within a surface, or like a surface that's on, the surface of the painting. And with the like screen, this one, I was thinking about that with these two, is sort of this like different ways of breaking up the surface of the painting so that there's like multiple screens or surfaces. I don't know if that makes sense, but these are more watercolors. More about like coupling. This is a Marlene Dumas frog painting. Neil Rausch dream quote. And then the next few paintings are more food paintings, still life. I made these specifically for a show I did in Chicago, and here's a photo reference for that was sort of inspiring this painting. But I was thinking about I had this orange in the studio that I painted multiple times there, and there's more of it, but I was excited about it, like similar to the stakes, like thinking about sort of the inside of the body, and felt like the inside of the orange had like a similar kind of like organ likeness. It's a Dyke Blair painting of coffee. Another Dyke Blair painting. Then this is one of my paintings, another still life painting. And this one was in the show I did earlier this year in Santa Fe. This is a photo of food. A friend at Columbo's, I think. Another food painting. And then this is more of a like landscape from the view of a car. Monet painting, and I think that I was wanting to start to talk about like sunset and light, and was kind of also with like some of the alcohol paintings of a drink like this one. I was thinking about sort of like ways of escape and like things we sort of idealize or romanticize, like the sunset. This is a Florian Kruer painting, Matthew Wong painting, and a detail of that painting. Super love this detail. This is my friend Katya in a hot tub. But again, the like half under, half above, and thinking about sort of like the way that obscures your view. Like if you're, you can't see it clearly underneath. I'm close to being done, don't worry. And again, like kind of above and below here. Or car views. This is a Mary Heilman painting of the road trip. This is a painting from my show in Santa Fe of like a car crash or possibility of a car crash in the rain. And then this is a painting from that show also of a storm and sort of a vision in the clouds of like that you're seeing through the storm. This is a show that some friends of mine and I curated in 2020, like this time 2020, that I thought would be worth putting a picture of. It was around a pool, and we had these videos like reflected onto the pool, and it made a really beautiful soundscape. This is a Nicole Eisenman painting and a Neil Rausch painting. Hannes will have to tell us how to properly say the name. I like this quote. And Chris Martin painting, like giant paintings in my studio for some scale. And these are the collage strips that I stole from my nephew. Francis Bacon painting. What painting? A painting of two birds as a couple. And then this is from a tomb in Italy, and so I'm painting that tomb sculpture. In Italy, there's like all these tombs that have like people buried together with the sculptures of couple sculptures over them. Very romantic. Another Nicole Eisenman painting, Carol Dunham painting, or drawing. Another Florian Kruer painting, Roman floor, and a Philip Guston painting. That's it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was cool seeing your work. So, I've known your work for a long time, but it was cool seeing it, especially going all the way back to being a child. It's cool. It's nice. I like that. It was a good move. And also, I remember, because we are both from Texas, and I love that you included the pond room. I love that room. Yeah, such a good room.
So special.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
I can smell it still.
Okay, so there's a few things that I thought about, both from the talk and also just from knowing you over the course. We moved to LA about the same time. Yes. But I wanted to ask you about your relationship in your artwork, but also maybe personally, spiritually, philosophically, about shame and the removal of shame. And I'm thinking about it specifically in terms of you were talking about narrative, figuration. I also feel your work can call up the words nostalgia or sentimentality, which, when I was when we were coming up, kind of 20s, I feel that was not chill or something. It was not cool to have those words come up in a critique or something. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, because I know you're aware of all that stuff, so I was wondering if those seem pointed, you're making a choice, you're making a decision, I'm not going to hinder that. Yeah. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think like I was talking about in the slideshow, moving here felt like I wanted to let myself be like a teenager again, sort of, and maybe go back to that way of thinking and feeling, maybe even like more than I allowed myself to as a teenager.
Like a little rebellious or something?
Yeah, or just to like indulge in certain things, to be maybe a little bit more rebellious, but just
like self-indulgent.
Yeah.
More. Okay.
Well, yeah, self-indulgent, and to just like acknowledge my own feelings in a way that I didn't. I was a little bit like turned down as a teenager, and it felt like there was a Samara Golden installation at MoCA, like in those early days too, and I heard her talk about it, and she talked about, it was like, I think she was giving a talk to teens actually, and she was talking about how important it was to her in this particular installation, I guess, which this is not that helpful way to answer the question, but I think there is something about like, if you're gonna keep making art, like trying to find some kind of emotional honesty that I felt was really, it was important to me to like I'm not saying I'm not a smart person, but I'm more interested in like intelligence of my body and of my emotions, whereas there was maybe like what you were saying about how the way we were educated, valued, maybe a more like colder intellectual smarts or something.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I've been thinking about that a lot, because what was also weird, because I feel like we're kind of like age-wise similar in terms of we probably went to undergrad around the same time. Grad school, I think I went to a little later than you, but whatever. But like, it's a weird kind of, like you could be a feminist if you were making like artwork that was sort of like directly political about like feminism or like social issues. But there's something like so overbearingly patriarchal about like having this sort of cold, intellectual like distance from the work. It's not that you can't do that, but just the idea that not doing that would be something to be embarrassed of or something like shameful seems like a very sort of like an indirect but a very pointed way to kind of be like the feminine isn't serious, or like things we associate with the feminine isn't serious.
I think that was a big culture shock for me when I moved to LA, that I felt a lot more permission to like let all of that go.
Yeah. And
that I think saved me in many ways.
Good. Yeah, well, that sort of plays into like some of the other things I was picking up on, which is it's not, well, I wrote down here, like it's not necessarily an anti-elitism, but it's almost like a chosen obliviousness, you know, because I feel like you can make work that it's about like, again, you are a smart person, I know you're a smart person, but it's not like your work is anti-intellectual or anti-other ways of doing it, but it is kind of embodying, it's like, not against that, but it's just not what it's about. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just about something totally different.
Well, I've started getting more honest with myself about artists that I really like, which is why I wanted to include so many examples of that.
Philip Guston especially, I feel like, is a really good example of someone that took a kind of like route for a time that was like very sort of socially acceptable, like abstract expressionist kind of stuff, and then went back, and it sort of seems like, you know, I think that we can all relate a little bit to like making the art we think we're supposed to make.
Yeah, yeah.
And then at some point being like, this doesn't feel right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think I'm really glad I had that moment to kind of check myself and think about what art I really liked to see and what those artists were, you know, putting myself in their shoes a little bit.
You talked a lot about like autobiography stuff. And also, I feel like I see a lot of Texas when I look at your work, because it's like a lot of it's like very vast. I don't know what, I can't really describe it, but it's like big dreams and big people and big skies
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, and big paintings too.
Yeah. I think here and Texas
Yeah.
and like the space in between is very like, there's sort of sublime relationship to the land. I want more and more to let like Texas kind of into my work,
Mm-hmm.
feel very from a place that's very wide open and I don't know, I also just like thinking about what is romantic to us and what's nostalgic maybe, but
Right.
I just feel like why shy away from these things?
Mhm.
Like it seems like good to explore that territory. I don't know.
Well, it's also funny because both Texas and California, while they're obviously very different in certain ways, and I mean in political ways, as we always see with like the election that we just had and many, many before that, and probably more to come. But one thing they have in common, a lot of big spaces, a lot of weird religious activity of different types, you know, that sort of like agony, ecstasy, spiritual, like there's something kind of weird in the air. Like there's a lot of those types of vibes in both places. There's also a lot of like interest in freedom of different kinds in both places.
Yeah, I think they're more similar than maybe get given credit for.
Yeah, there's also like kind of a lot of individualism, you know, like people who are like down to be weird. Let's see. Oh, well, also, when it comes to your autobiography, is it important? I mean, it seems more like what's important about it is that the sense is conveyed that, like, I am being shown a photograph or an image that is important to this artist, but not necessarily, it doesn't seem like it's important for me to know what's going on. Is that like a decision that you're, like, do you think about that? Do you think about how much should I reveal in terms of my personal narrative when, like, in relationship to it just sort of being like, this is autobiographical, but I can't exactly tell how.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't matter if you know. And I think I'm, like, in lots of ways making it confusing. but hopefully, like, those confusions
But you want it to be kind of confusing, or you don't mind?
No, I don't mind. I think it's, like, hopefully, like, it's about making it a better painting, hopefully, I don't know. Or, like, keeping it in the world of painting.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it also seems kind of like in that world of memory where
yeah, like fuzzy or multiple things at one time.
You know, like people ask you like, oh, what was your childhood like? And you're like, I don't know, it was like this trip I took to Galveston. I mean, I went to Galveston a lot as a child too. I could tell because it's a really ugly beach. It has that like, dirty. That dirty beach vibe of Galveston. Yes. I guess Coney Island is kind of like that too, that dirty beach vibe. But, okay, so I guess it's a good time to turn it over if anyone has any questions. I know you do. Y'all look so curious. There.
I really like the little details. One specifically I remember was like the little rose on the stake painting, and I think you showed detail of kind of like a tattoo-ish looking image on someone's leg. I'm just curious about those.
Yeah, I did a lot of like tattoos on the figures because it feels like a third way to get another like symbol in. And I don't know, I mean, I don't know what else to say about except for it's like drawing a drawing too.
It's also like drawing something that is significant to the person that drew it on themselves.
Yeah,
so it's like that, like multiple layers of like, you know, it's meaningful, but you don't really have a reference for how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the repetition of things like a scorpion or a rose, they're like so, you know, common, but still so potent to us too. which is amazing. I think the scorpion had a rose in its mouth also, that particular one.
Oh, go ahead.
Around like the Romeo and Juliet kind of era of your PowerPoint, I like noticed that there's like some paintings where like they have these really stark solid colors. Like one's like the blue tablecloth, but then like the human figures are like left almost transparent, which is the outline. Is there like a choice behind that?
Yeah, I think kind of wanting them to stay in a territory where it was like kind of like a memory or a dream, where the figures are like half present and half gone. But also I've been thinking more about that and feel like there's just, I want there to be like drawing in the paintings, or I get to feel like, that. Makes sense.
Yeah, I have another question. So, I think also sometimes what's interesting in the process of making art is that sometimes you're thinking about it from like an emotional, conceptual, like what am I feeling? What do I want this painting to be like? But then other times too, sometimes you make decisions because like that's gonna be better for the painting. Like it doesn't even come, how do you balance decisions like that? Or do you think of it that way where it's like, I'm not making this even for like some conceptual reason, but I just know the way things work, like this will make a better painting if I do that this way, or you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's I love painting because you you kind of like enter some state where where like the painting seems like it's telling you what to do, or you don't have to.
Like a fugue state or something?
Yeah, you kind of like get where the ideas feel like they're coming from a different part of your brain, and that's a very addicting feeling.
Just looking at like the Tyler Park show and the Best Western show, the Tyler Park one you're saying was like really influenced by collage, and it seems like those images are collaged kind of, like the different things feel like on top of each other. The witch hands with the rain and the background, those are all like, I don't know, feel really separate. And then I'm thinking about the frog storm lightning, which feels very like, although it's like a vision through the clouds, it feels all like integrated to me. So I'm just wondering, like, was that a journey or what's going on with like those changes, I guess?
I think I decided or sort of started to let myself just like paint the scene and not like overly break it up. I still like make collages separately, but I don't feel like they're as often, like informing the composition of the painting. But there's something about like the way that generates ideas that does seem like really still in the mix. But yeah, the Best Western paintings were much more just like this integrated scene, I guess, like you said.
You guys were talking about kind of like connecting with like earlier selves, and you talking about your teenage year, like connecting with that. I'm curious, could you tell more about like that initial kind of fascination with like night and day, and like even maybe lightning, like what was that kind of draw for you when you were young?
I don't know. I think there was something in me that wanted like liked the drama, like was like very like, like just into it, and still like it.
Thunderstorms are exciting.
Yeah, it's like
especially in Texas. Like I don't know, you get like power would go out, and you'd have like the
pressure,
candles. It's
cold air.
It's cute. I like it.
But I think also the like drama of romance, or like night versus day.
It's a contrast
drama.
too. I think there was someone back there. Is there a little hand? No. Oh.
You were talking about earlier how some of your work have like the above and below symbolism.
Yeah, I think it's, yes. I think for a while, there's been like several periods in my life where I think I've like went through some very big losses, and knew that, there was something about like looking to really ancient like ideas about death and about like as above, so below, the idea of like a heaven or an underworld or a hell, and looking into those, even like visual representations of that and mythology about those, like about, mythology that spoke to that, helped me through those periods. And the idea of an afterlife or a past life helped me through it. And I think art, like looking at ancient art that depicted that, helped me. So I feel like any way that I can like, I don't know, I like ended up wanting to reference that in my own paintings too. Or I just feel like images of blood or stairs or anything speaks to that kind of, and I don't know.
Art can also give like a sense of past lives.
Yeah.
Like I feel like sometimes when you look at artists that have passed away, it's like you're getting a glimpse on a past life. I don't know.
It gives you like a weird relationship to time. Kind of.
And sometimes you can think about future lives because you can think, oh, I wonder if someone in 50 years or like 100 years will see this painting and be like, what was she thinking about? I don't know. Art does that, has like future and past lives, because they're museums and future viewers you'll never meet. Whenever I go to a museum, it's like you're meeting someone that's dead. It's cool. That's cool. It's a good question.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go for it.
You kind of hinted a little bit in the talk that maybe you'd be open about talking about frogs.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. You want to talk about your use of frogs?
You want to elaborate on frogs?
Yeah. When I moved to LA, I lived really close to the ocean, and I had so many dreams about like giant sea creatures like coming out onto the beach, or like me being in the ocean with like giant whales and stuff. So my friend and I that did that ritual, we bought these like rubber toys that one was a frog, one was a snake, one was a lizard, one was a spider. And we used them to like protect our work. And then those pictures like circulated in the studio, and then like there was a ceramic version of the toy. But also like frogs look like people, kind of. It looks like a human body, somewhat. And then there's a 12-step saying, frog stands for fully rely on God. I learned that later, like more recently. So that just sort of sealed the deal for me.
Is there also something maybe about like proliferation? Like coupling is like
Yeah.
anything about like how like amphibians like in general? Well, also amphibians, right? Underwater, above and below water, right?
Yeah.
And also just like when just like having like a lot of offspring.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something like very so like charged symbolism.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they represent fertility.
Yeah.
But also the going in and out of water, like multiple states can live in multiple. I think that is very powerful.
And tadpoles. It's like a huge part of like early education is learning like how tadpoles become frogs. It seems like that was like a big thing that we all needed to know a lot about for some reason.
It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. They look like little sperm.
Yeah, it's like they really emphasized that looking back on it. Like, okay, we get it. Does anyone, we could do one more question, then we should probably wrap up.
I have a question. Is painting a ritual for you? The act of painting?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, I was thinking, I asked because some of the imagery feels symbolic in the paintings, and I thought, well, either the paintings are supposed to imbue some power of a symbol, or they're evidence of a sort of ritualistic practice.
I feel like, I don't know. I think I've gotten like much more, I've like taken some distance a little bit, maybe from thinking too specifically about like any of those type of words, like ritual especially, or ceremony, or even like a religious practice. Like I don't want to be very formal about it, or very like there's no rule or particularity much. I think there's been times in my life where I had like a lot of detail in my mind about that, but now I don't, or I've let a lot of that go. So I think it would feel like pressure in some way if painting was a ritual, and it feels like to paint well, or like the way I want to, it needs to be a really daily or almost daily activity, and I just, yeah, I feel like ritual makes it sound more pressury, and whereas I feel like when it's a little softer or looser or like tending, it seems like it would be a better way to, or like easier way to approach that, you know? Does that make sense?
It's more like eating.
Yeah, just like hawking, or like, yeah.
All right, well, we'll end there. Thank you all for coming, and thanks again,
Thank you so
Carrie,
much.
for yay.
Thank you.